Attorney General Jeff Sessions has created a new task force to review how the Justice Department handles a number of issues, and including the enforcement of marijuana laws. Even though marijuana is illegal under federal law, 8 states have legalized recreational marijuana, and 28 states have some form of legalized medicinal marijuana. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid is in Washington to hash this all out. Okay, Paula, you explain exactly what this task force will be doing. What is this change about exactly?
Well, Rena, I have the memo that Attorney General Sessions sent to top prosecutors across the country, and it says that this task force will review policies in the area of charging, sentencing, and marijuana to ensure that they're consistent with the Department of Justice's overall efforts to reduce violent crime. Rena, violent crime reduction is one of the Attorney General's top priorities. Even though crime in the U.S. remains at historic lows, the Attorney General says he sees some trends that he believes will continue unless he takes some sort of concrete action. Now, he is also on the record as saying that he believes there's a lot more violence around marijuana than we are led to believe. So it appears that this task force is going to take a look at this issue and figure out how extensively they will enforce federal marijuana laws as they attempt to reduce violent crime across the country.
But Paul, is it a little bit too late to be cracking down on pot?
Well, it's not that it's too late. It still remains illegal at the federal level. And of course, if you look at public opinion polls, the majority of Americans do support some degree of legalization. But the fact is, he is still in lockstep with federal law enforcement. The previous 2 attorneys general, Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, neither one of them moved to legalize marijuana. The Obama administration also had an opportunity to move marijuana out of Schedule 1, where a lot of people believe it shouldn't be, but they didn't do that. So Attorney General Sessions, while he may be somewhat out of step with mainstream America, this is pretty consistent with the stance of federal law enforcement historically.
And Paul, what's the Department of Justice's current policy when it comes to dealing with marijuana?
Under the Obama administration, they sort of laid out a plan for how they were going to handle marijuana enforcement, particularly in states where it was legal. And generally, it's a pretty hands-off approach. It was codified in this memo by a former Deputy Attorney General Cole. It's called the Cole Memo, and it tells prosecutors, look, marijuana enforcement, this is not going to be our top priority. Let's focus on organized crime, large distribution chains of marijuana, but let's not prosecute individuals for marijuana crimes. They also issued additional guidance, for example, to banks in states where marijuana is legal. And they told these banks, look, we'd rather have these marijuana dispensaries putting their money into a valid bank than just having stacks of cash around, because that could potentially result in violent crimes and robberies. So it's a very hands-off approach, but they have been trying to take additional steps to deal with the fact that marijuana is legal in some states, but remains illegal at the federal level.
And speaking of legal in some states, on Tuesday, the governors of Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, Washington wrote Sessions, and they said, consult with us before you make any changes to regulations or enforcement. What do you think the likelihood of that actually happening will be?
I would be surprised if the Attorney General consults with them before really changing his enforcement. I'm sure he hears them. He understands the concerns. But historically, over the course of his career, going back decades, he has been one of the most vocal opponents of marijuana. So there is a chance that the federal government may increase its enforcement action. Now, I don't think the Department of Justice is going to pick a fight with the states where it's been legalized, but I do think he may empower prosecutors, federal prosecutors, to be more aggressive in their enforcement of these federal laws.
Do you think this creates some sort of confusion, Paul, in how to enforce the law, especially with these states where it's legal?
Absolutely. There's a lot of confusion. When you have states making something legal, it's illegal at the federal level. Oftentimes there's money tied to this. And we're really grappling with a lot of questions right now about the extent to which the Department of Justice, federal law enforcement, is going to get involved in local matters. You see, when it comes to immigration, they really want local law enforcement to cooperate with them. But then we're also seeing when it comes to reforming local law enforcement agencies in Ferguson, Baltimore, Chicago, they're taking more of a hands-off approach. So it's not really clear how they're going to balance their responsibilities with federal law enforcement, with the local law on the books, and what's happening on the ground in these states. Rena, it'll be fascinating over the next few years to watch how they actually implement the federal law.
Yeah, before I let you go, Pi, I was just curious, what should we expect next with these states where it's already legalized?
Well, again, I don't think that the Attorney General is going to try to override those state laws. I don't think he's going to go in and start, raiding legal marijuana dispensaries. It just doesn't seem like something that he would do. He's also on the record as saying that he believes, generally speaking, that the Cole memo and the Obama Justice Department's approach to marijuana was valid, sort of taking a hands-off approach in states where it was legal. But again, I do think that he may empower federal prosecutors to be more aggressive than they have been, even in states where it's legal.
All right, Paula Reid coming to us from Washington. Thank you, Paula.